Howdy and welcome to the TexAgs Rewind presented by T-Mobile. I'm Dalton Hughes, not David Nuno, who usually hosts this show. He probably does a better job than me, but no. I'm doing better than him this week, let's be honest. Today on the Rewind, we got the Go Hour. Olin Buchanan in here. We talked about the SEC West dominance in baseball, football, and beyond. Do you know there's 4 SEC West teams going to the College World Series? Only 8 teams there total. Andrew Monaco, the voice of the Aggies, joined. Talking about the journey to Omaha for this A&M baseball team. What a ride it's been. Aggie track and field coach Pat Henry joined in studio to recap the NCAA championships last week in Eugene. And then we close it out. My guy, Peter Burns, having him on makes you feel good again. It's like listening to Robert Earl Keen. That's it for the TexAgs Rewind. Enjoy. Omaha field is set. There are 4 SEC West teams. They also set game times for the first 2 days of the tournament. A&M and Oklahoma kick off all the action on Friday, 1 o'clock Central, followed by Notre Dame and Texas at 6 p.m. Is there a more dominant division in college athletics than the SEC West?
I would say no. I mean, you got 4, like you just said, four of the 8 teams are in the championship or in the College World Series. And then if you look in football, I think it's widely agreed upon that the SEC West is the strongest conference. I mean, the strongest division in college football. Now, you could bring up basketball and say, well, maybe it's not as strong there, even though didn't Arkansas go to the Sweet 16?
I think Arkansas
And you had
under
Auburn.
Musselman has been to back-to-back Elite Eights.
Alabama was good last
Auburn's
year.
been the postseason underachiever under Bruce Pearl. They never seemed to make it as far as everyone thought they were originally.
But they're good. LSU typically is good in basketball, but I still don't think you could go out. And A&M is improving. Hell, A&M's been to the Sweet 16 in the last 7 or 8 years, last 8 years twice.
Yeah.
And probably would have been this year had
they made the tournament.
Well, had the committee not been stocked with 7 people from-major conferences affiliation, and that's what that was about. Mississippi State's had its moments, but again, in basketball, it's not as dominant.
Basketball's not as dominant, but if you go back to baseball, Mississippi State won the national title.
Yeah, just last year.
Mississippi State won the national title last year, and I think things that people don't talk about enough. They didn't win a game in Hoover at the SEC tournament, and I think they got run ruled once, if not twice.
I think twice.
Yeah, and they went on to win the national championship.
So in baseball, who in the SEC West doesn't have a strong program?
The weakest program, and air quotes on that, I guess it's Alabama. Alabama, who
should have been in this year's
should have been in the tournament, and a lot of people said if that team made the tournament, they would be like, I don't know, Ole Miss. Yeah. Those were the 2 teams being vied for that 64 spot, and Ole Miss is here now in Omaha.
Yeah. So when half of your field is from one division, not even just one conference, but one division. I think that really just speaks to how strong the division is. And I don't know, do you glean confidence for your team because of that?
I don't know. You can't glean negative.
Right.
I don't know if it's a positive just because A&M's not playing them. A&M's also playing some ridiculously hot teams, and we actually got a text.
In the Aggies, aren't they 6-4 against the teams in the tournament?
Broninger put out a tweet looking at the teams that are in the College World Series fields. Here's their records against teams from the field. Oklahoma's 3-2.
Okay.
Texas A&M is 6-4. Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. The Texas Longhorns are 2-3. Arkansas right at 5-5. Stanford's 1-0. Ole Miss 4-5. Auburn 4-6. All right, Andrew, let's roll the calendar back. It's the end of March. It's Tuesday, March 29th. You are in New York City calling the NIT. I believe that was the semifinal game. A&M beats Texas in Austin. You're on that call and for basketball. And then the next thing you know, you go straight from New York to Alabama to Tuscaloosa for that series for Aggie baseball. Who would have thought then we'd be where we are now on the road to Omaha?
And I'm wondering, Dalton, if those Tuesday wins, including that one in Austin, didn't help this team immensely because those were the challenges. Remember, how were the Aggies going to play against these ranked teams? There are a lot of ranked teams. Texas, Texas State, DBU, were all these ranked teams on that Tuesday, and you could see some of this team coming together that, oh, you know what, maybe it's going to have to be doing it by losing Christian Curtis earlier in the year to Rice kind of put some things in flux. And you had different starting pitchers, but you had that bullpen come through, and we got a glimpse of what this offense could do against the teams with the high RPI, with the high rankings in those midweek games. And I think that helped as well going into the SEC weekends. You get a little bit tested, and then you're not worried about what's going to happen on that weekend, because we were all wondering, okay, what's going to happen when the SEC schedule comes out, or when the SEC play begins? How are they going to play in the SEC? The other things we were thinking was, well, they didn't do great against this early part of the SEC. Now the SEC schedule gets a lot tougher, and they didn't lose a series at the quote-unquote tough part of that schedule. It was because of the way the Aggies play. I need to tell you that in New York, as we're watching that NIT semifinal game, Director of Athletics Ross Bjork is to my right. He's got the baseball game on his phone, watching the Aggies play in the NIT. And while I'm on the air, we have this complicated system of hand signals, and I'm looking over, and he puts up a 4, and I'm like, oh, we scored 4 runs. He goes, no, just hit a grand slam. I'm like, oh, this is getting good. So throughout, I'm getting an update, and then every time out, it's, hey, what's going on with baseball? Getting that update, and that goes back a little bit more. We had to sit together. It was me, John Thornton, Ross Bjork, Justin Moore. That goes back to Tampa in the SEC tournament because it was the 4 of us courtside there during that run for basketball. But Ross will always have another device, whatever other sport is going on. He is so plugged into all of it, obviously, as a director of athletics. But to me, it was an awful lot of fun. So I'm trying to keep in touch. So the game's going on until we're getting to a break. And he's giving me a hand signal. Sometimes I knew what he was talking about. Another time I didn't. But all I know is there was a big old smile on his face throughout that as the Aggies beat Texas in baseball, and we're advancing in the NIT as well.
How does that work? So you have your athletes going. How many alternates would you say that you guys take for that relay?
We took 2.
Okay. So
we used both of them.
Use both of them. So
yeah,
that completely changes the equation.
And probably the first time we've been able to use 2 guys and run that fast.
Okay.
So that bodes well for the future. That looks good for where we're going. And so, I was pleased with the group. Brandon Miller got beat in the 8, ran 145 point. He got beat at this meet, but he's ranked number 1 in the United States. He's the number 1 American, not number 1 NCAA. He's the number 1 American. He got beat by 2 international guys, and he just had a great showing.
When we talk about Brandon, I know he's been someone that you've been excited to talk about since he's been on campus, going back to last year.
Yeah.
His future, what do you think it holds?
Yeah.
Just for Texas A&M.
Yeah, he's a sophomore, and he's done a lot of great things to this point. So, I look forward to Brandon's future. I think that he is such a driven guy. He's probably one of the most intense guys we have on the team, and happy guy. He's blessed. He feels blessed to be able to do what he does. And he does a great job doing it. So he's got a great future in front of him.
For us, we spent a lot of time this week talking about the baseball team, and it seems like a lot of guys that love Texas A&M. I get that same vibe from talking with Brandon. Not only does he love what he loves getting to do it here and for this university.
Yeah, he's an Aggie straight through. There's no question about it.
Flipping things over to the women's side, 4th place finish.
Yeah.
Scored 39 points, and Lamar Diston just keeps winning.
Yeah.
High jump national title.
No, she did. And our team finish, it's almost like if we don't win it, it's a little bit upsetting to lots of people. But to finish fourth in the United States, when you start thinking of everybody, every other team would be pleased with their season, and so are we. We are extremely pleased with the effort of this group. You got to remember, too, we lost two people, maybe two of the best people, females, to ever compete in the NCAA. Athingmu, as a freshman, we lost her to the professional ranks, and then we lost another young lady that to another school here in the state because of the portal that would have scored a lot of points for us. So you lose those two people off this team, and to bounce back and still get fourth, we feel pretty good because those two ladies would have probably brought in 25, 30 points, and that changes the whole dynamic.
A&M not going to be the only SEC team going to Omaha. As we said, we might as well rename it the SEC Invitational. I know you were out in Chapel Hill on Sunday watching the Omahawks clinch it. First off, did you get all the ice cream situated? I know that was not a fun early start with all the rain delays, but it was great to see Dave Van Horn and company advance.
It was, man. We decided on a whim, like, screw it, let's go to UNC. It's like 2.5 hours from Charlotte because, I want my kids to be able to see a bunch of sporting events. And we're like, all right, let's go cheer on, an SEC squad. Anytime an ACC squad could possibly lose, that's a good day in my household, right? So, it started off as a disaster because as soon as we get there, my daughter is like, Bo, she goes, I need ice cream. We're like, all right, so we go get ice cream. And we're not even 30 paces away from where we bought the ice cream to where she drops it. And I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be one of those days. So finally, we go up there, we go get her another ice cream. Like 2 minutes later, like she drops another one. And I'm like, Lord almighty. But luckily, that was the worst thing that happened, man. It was, it's fun to watch. And, and I think, we see Schlossnagel, and he's one of those well-respected guys. Dave Van Horn's the same way. And, I know there was a lot of vitriol towards Tennessee and the kind of the in-your-face that they try to play baseball with this year, and it makes you even appreciate the guys like Van Horn and Schloss that are a little bit more quiet. Their teams still have passion, but they play disciplined, right? And the word that Jack used last night and the word that Troy used today was like, we weren't trying to beat an opponent. We were just trying to play consistent, our style of baseball. And I thought that was really interesting. And in that every time I hear that from a different Aggie player, that has to come from Schloss. And I think that's great. And again, now they're going to see some familiar teams that they're able to make it out of that side of the bracket, in Omaha.
No doubt. Pete, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We talked to Tom yesterday. He was in Knoxville. He talked about the environment at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Incredible. We heard Mike Monaco and Chris Berg here in College Station talk all weekend about Olsen Field at Blue Bell Park. Everyone knows where it is. Does it seem environment-wise that college baseball has never been in a better place than it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's coming to a couple things. One, it's the product is really good, and you're seeing just more and more guys. You're seeing fifth-year seniors, guys that had an extra year because of COVID. I think part of it as well too is that for a year and a half. 2 years, we couldn't really go to a bunch of, a lot of people couldn't travel, and go and do stuff. So I think there was a lot of pent up, excitement to go do things. And I think, we're seeing it right now. I mean, when you support, when a fan base supports a team this way, all of a sudden people see that, right? People watch us on SEC Network and they're like, holy hell, like it looks crazy loud. Like, when you're doing the kind of ball 4 and ball 5 and the countdown in the stadium, that makes a difference because all of a sudden, if you're facing that at Texas A&M, you're like, I kind of want to be a part of that, right? I mean, Troy was talking about it like when he was over at California and he's like at Oregon State, he's like, we got good fans, but then you show up here, you don't know what to expect. And you're like, this is a difference maker. And I'll tell you this, it was weird because I went to North Carolina to watch them and they've got a good program, a nice stadium. And I'm like, it's kind of like a church crowd compared to Blue Bell or Tiger, or Alec Box or all of the great venues here in the SEC.
That'll do it for Tuesday's edition of the TexAgs Rewind. I'm Dalton Hughes. Thanks for watching. You just watched. So now comment, like, subscribe, share, do all those things that Nuno tells you to do that I did better, for being honest. Thanks for watching.